Good morning. I'd like to welcome each and every one of y'all here to our annual Georgia Cotton Commission meeting. I'm Bart Davis, a producer from Colquitt County and chairman of the Georgia Cotton Commission. At this time, Chris Hopkins is going to come up and give us an invitation.
Thank you, Bart. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we come to you as humble as we know how, Lord, thanking you for safe traveling mercies as you bestowed upon us this morning. Lord, we pray for a hedge of protection for all of our family members, wherever they may be today. Lord, we thank you most importantly for the profession of agriculture. Lord, we thank you for what it means to our families and our communities and what it means to our national security, Lord. And we thank you for the profession and ability to make a living in agriculture. Lord, I pray to every decision we make today and everything that we learn, we take home for the betterment of our farms, Lord. And I also pray for the meeting, the safety of everyone as they travel back home, and the lunch you'll provide for us today. So in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Chris. At this time, I'd like to recognize the Cotton Commission board members. If you will, just when I call your name, stand up. Matt Coley, Dooley County. Stephen Meeks, Wayne County. John Ruart, Morgan County. Chris Hopkins, Toombs County. Greg Sykes, Bullitt County. David Holton, Mitchell County. Thank y'all. I'd also like to recognize Dr. Fred Rayfield. Where you at? Stand up. He took Andy Harrison's place a few years ago. He works with the Georgia Department of Ag, so he attends all our cotton meetings. Rayner Churchwell. Rayner, he represents the Farm Bureau at our meetings. Mary Catherine Cromley with USDA-FSA. Where you at? She's going to be one of our guest speakers today. That's Lee Cromley's daughter. Lee's been involved in Georgia cotton and really U.S. cotton industry for years. We appreciate all what Lee's done. This is his daughter. And actually his other daughter, Molly's involved. She represents the National Cotton Council, so they actually are a cotton family. You've done a good job with those girls, Lee. Our UGA cotton team, are they in here with all them stand up? Or they all hide? And I know Camp Hand and Phillip's supposed to speak. So all our research, these guys, all the research we fund, these are the guys that carry all this research out and do a really good job and come to us with ideas, and we go to them with ideas, and that's why where we at in cotton production in Georgia today, because of these guys here. It thanks as much to them and their lives as it does ours. Jody Redding, the governor's office. Is Jody here? Here's Jody right here. Allison Drillin, Sanford Bishop's office. There she is. Emily Novery, Austin Scott's office. I think I just spoke to her a while ago. I don't know where she's at. Mike Tays, UGA Extension. Mike, he does us a good job. Tim Gray, UGA Campus Tifton. We have Nick McMicken. Stand up, Nick. Nick McMicken is a grower from North Alabama. He just become our new president for Southern Cotton Growers last year. Been knowing Nick a long time, him and his wife. Nick is going to do us a good job as president of Southern Cotton Growers. Thank you, Nick, for coming. Oh, I don't know what. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. He does produce some cotton, or he grows some cotton in Georgia up there in the northwest corner. He is a Georgia and Alabama producer, but he does live in their gens in Alabama. We ain't going to hold that against you, Nick. Daniel Radford, Cotton Board. Because I just mentioned Molly Cromley. She's with the National Cotton Council, our regional representative. Jim Davis, Southern Cotton Growers. He's our executive director. Y'all got any problems with cotton, call him. And then Andy Knowlton, Southern Cotton General Association. Andy. So that wraps up all the recognition. And at this time, I think Taylor is going to come and give y'all a pep talk and recognize our first speaker.
Oh, Lord. Already got problems for later on the computer. Good morning, everybody. Taylor Sills, Georgia Cotton Commission staff. There's a couple special groups I want to recognize. One as we get into the program, but I saw two special people in the corner. Martha Harris and Richie Seaton. We're going to talk to them later probably, I hope. Very special people to me, former members of our staff. There's a lot of extension agents in the room. Can y'all stand up? These are kind of our boots on the ground between us and the growers in the community, and we really appreciate all they do. And there's one more we'll recognize as we get into the report. I want to tell you that 2025 was a referendum year. We know that there's hard times throughout the industry. We appreciate the support of you all, our producers, who gave us a little over 87% vote to continue the referendum program. I want to point out that our office has moved, and it's going to take us, we're going to have to remind people for a couple years that we've moved, but after being at the fairgrounds for 30 years, but we've moved into downtown Perry. Our phone number's still the same. If I can figure out how to answer it, I'll answer it. Those challenges are real for me. Also want to point out some changes with our cotton organization. Liz Hirschfield is now running Cotton Council International. She's got a lifetime of experiences with brands and retailers. She's also, as of yesterday apparently, taking over, along with Marjory Walker, who we'll hear from later today, the responsibilities of the U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol. I want to take a minute to introduce the staff. I know Audrey's in the back. Audrey's been with us about 6 months. We're really excited to have her. Kelly is around, there she is over there. Kelly's been with us a little over 5 years now. Just want, if you haven't met these people, make an opportunity to go speak to them, introduce yourselves, tell them the issues you face on your farms, and what makes your farm special. A brief breakdown of how we spend that dollar a bale. As you can see, the biggest part was, and will be our research efforts to support our cotton team members. I know they've got a lot of grad students and technicians and stuff and folks that I think are here. Want to make sure to support that's why we're here. On a promotion education efforts, we've talked a lot about this, but I can't express enough how important some of these efforts are. A couple years ago, we fell into this project with the Savannah College of Art and Design, and some of you have heard me say this, and I'm going to keep saying it. Those of you that know me know that I tend to be cynical. I wonder sometimes if we're doing things just to check a box. And this past year, we were with the SCAD fiber students. They pointed out that they were undergoing a curriculum review, and one of the results in that review was they're going to add a class on cotton to their curriculum. And I think that's a fantastic thing. I think that's a great victory for the efforts that we can do as an organization with you all's help. So we're excited about that. We continue to sponsor the Georgia State Championships, the high school football games on GPB. That program continues to grow, and frankly, sometimes when we get the metrics back, it looks like it's growing out of control. This year, they had about 2.1 million people watch those ball games. The largest game was the Carrollton-Buford game, the 6A state championship. About 500,000 people watched that. So when you look at a big college football game, it's going to rate somewhere around 3 million people. And that's spread out all over the country. So 500,000 people in one state, I think, is a pretty good. Now, I assume most people watching it were from Georgia. I think that's a really good impact for us and a very good use of our funds. And then I also want to point out our partnership with CCI continues to let us interact with mill executives and mill professionals from across the world. This past year, we were able to host a group from Vietnam, which is now the number1 buyer of U.S. cotton. When you look at, it allows us to talk about southeastern cotton in particular. They're really interested in our multi-generational farms that we have here. And now, with the Port of Savannah being the #1 cotton shipper in the country, it's very important for them to come and to go there as well. Research, like I said, is the biggest part of that dollar a bale. This is a list of those projects. All these projects are vetted out by a research advisory committee. We have several of the members of that committee here. Can y'all stand up? Those are on the advisory committee. I knew there was a few more of you, and there's several more walking around. We appreciate you guys coming in and scoring those for us, helping our board make those decisions. We can't do that without you. I want to point out that these projects in bold are our new projects for this year. Some of them are pretty radically different from the year before, and that's based on grower impact. These growers interact with these cotton team members, at field days and county meetings and things like that. And y'all are the ones who are driving that. And we're very appreciative of that. Mary C's going to get into some of this later. I want to talk about how impactful that big, beautiful bill was to the bottom line for producers in the state. And when you add all this up, it's up, $150, $160 an acre in impact. Don't want to touch on it too long. The base issuance that we're going to go through later this year is really a once-in-a-generation opportunity for you. We talk to producers all the time who've been farming 15, 20, 25 years who don't have enough base. And now's your opportunity to get some. I hope that we'll be able to enroll wall to wall. I don't know if that's quite going to be the case, but that's a great opportunity. I know Mary Catherine's also going to talk about farmer bridge assistance. Here's a list of those payment rates. All of this couldn't be possible without our friends at the National Cotton Council. I just want to tell you guys. The next big effort is this Buying American Cotton Act. You've heard a lot about it. It was introduced in the House last week. It has bipartisan support. From our congressional delegation here in Georgia. This is a new type of thing for us. What this legislation intends to do is to issue tax credits for brands and retailers who want to document to receive tax credits based on their incorporation of American cotton into their products. There's a tier for just using U.S. cotton. There's a tier for using U.S. yarn. There's an additional tier for using U.S. fabric. And there's an additional plus up of those tiers if those products are made in a country that has a free trade agreement with the U.S. And of course, there's the ultimate there, which is a completely grown and sewn in the U.S. product. So we're really excited about this legislation. We're excited about the impact that it could have on our industry here. But at the end of the day, what we need more than anything, and this can help us with, is an uptick in demand. I look at social media, and I know social media can become kind of an echo chamber sometimes, but I want to tell you about some things that I've been noticing, and we at my house have been noticing, is this brand on the bottom left here is a company called Atlantic Rancher. And I usually don't like to give brand shout-outs because we don't want to endorse anybody. But I'll tell you, I don't think their clothes are the best looking in the world. I think they're for a little different audience. But they don't do synthetics. And I think that's a big deal. They do some of our talking for us. As you can see there on the screen, they want you to beware of the imposter's polyester. This lady in the center here, she's an influencer out of Athens. One of the things that she's going to be cutting out of her family's life in 2026 is polyester. And when Ms. Marjory talks later today, I think you'll probably see why. And the guy on the right is starting an all natural fiber golf brand. And again, just doing a lot of our talking for us. I've also seen in the last year a lot more cotton offerings than I've seen in the past 5 probably before that. We've got a brand here in Georgia who Cotton Incorporated helped them develop their first ever cotton shirt that's been under their label. I think that's a big deal, guys. Because what we need more than anything to get the price up is people to start wearing the stuff. So if you have questions about any of that, I hope that you'll ask or when Ms. Marjory talks later. I also want to point out, we've talked a little bit about this at county meetings. We've just got done running a social media advertising campaign specifically on podcast and YouTube. We've got these 6-second ads. 6 seconds is important because that's the minimum amount of time an ad can be on YouTube before you can skip it. So our completion numbers on this are pretty high. We ran these through the holidays, and we were able to finally, these people had come to us for years talking about 6-second ads, and I said, what can I tell them in 6 seconds? And the Plant Not Plastic campaign kind of gave us some fodder for that. These ads were seen by about 500,000 people during November and December. And the metrics we got back on it, but beyond that, they were right, that target audience that we really were after. So we're excited about that. Just a couple more slides for you. I want to touch on some changes with the Cotton Research and Promotion Program. They went through a pretty thorough review process, and some of you in this room were involved in that. I know some of those changes weren't easy. What I want to tell you is Cotton Incorporated's going to change how they're advertising to people, how they're focusing their dollars and their efforts. to be more on the what they call the middle of the supply chain, the people making that decision, that purchasing decision. If they want to show that brand and retailer how they can make money on cotton, how they can be more efficient using cotton. And also, in some parts of the world where they have ESG rules, they want to show them how cotton's the compliance-ready fiber that can help their business evolve into the next generation. I also want to tell you that they've made some staffing changes, and I know some of that's been hard. They've combined their global supply chain and consumer marketing departments into one. And on April 21st, at these cotton and coffee calls that we've talked a lot about over the years, that new person's gonna talk about their new strategy. We've got the link here. You can get signed up for all these cotton and coffee calls that the Cotton Board puts on. I think they're a great program to allow you to have kind of a deep dive into a certain topic affecting the industry in a day. But if you don't scan the code, you can contact us, contact your gender. Daniel from the Cotton Board is here. They're the ones that put these on. Contact your county agent. A lot of options for you. And that's all I have for you for our part of the program this morning. It is nice where most of the things I've been talking about at local meetings will be covered by our other speakers. And so here's our contact information. I want to tell you that our mid-year meeting, this will be the 4th year we've done that, will be in Statesboro on July 29th. Obviously, we haven't gotten around to a program yet, but we hope it's a good program for you as well. And I just want to remind you, we can't do the things we do without you guys. And it's beyond just the financial support. There's a lot of leadership, a lot of impact in this room, and we really appreciate you. So Chris Hopkins is going to introduce our next speaker. If you have any questions or anything while we're here, just pull us aside. And again, we appreciate you. Oh, we got to do a drawing. You can't have a gap in speakers without a drawing. Our first door prize will be a $250 gift card provided for by the Cotton Commission, and that number is going to be 516-3268. 3268. Lee Cromley, that was easy.
Thank you, Taylor. Dr. Phillip Roberts is a professor and extension entomologist with the University of Georgia located on the Tifton campus. His primary responsibilities include developing and implementing comprehensive extension, education programs, and integrated pest management for cotton and soybean production systems. Additionally, Dr. Roberts conducts applied research and on-farm demonstration programs to promote and improve state-of-the-art IPM programs for producers across the state. Roberts, a native of Ocilla, holds multiple degrees from the University of Georgia. Phillip and his wife live in Tifton and have 3 adult daughters and 1 grandchild. And before he comes up, one interesting fact I found, of all the insects Dr. Roberts deals with, he buys his favorite insect in a cage at 100 at a time, right? That's right. And he also says that the redbreast, it is their favorite insect too, right? That's right, all right.
Thank you, Chris, and today I'm going to share some information about cotton jassid. And, as I reflected back over the year, it's been 6 months and 19 days since we saw cotton jassid in the state of Georgia. A lot has happened. We've learned a lot. There's still a lot of things, a lot of questions that we still need to better understand. But we're going to go over a little bit of what we do know, and I'm going to tell you some things we don't know, and we'll just go from there. First, this insect, as you read about this insect, you're going to see it referred to as the 2-spot cotton leafhopper at times. That's the accepted common name by the Entomological Society of America. Now, I like the term jassid. I do a lot of talking. It's a whole lot easier to say jassid. And I think most folks in the state of Georgia know what we're talking about when we say cotton jassid. But this insect is actually native to the Indian subcontinent. It's been there for over 100 years. And if you look, and I can't get the pointer to work, But where they grow cotton in India, the northern realm of their production area or region where this insect is native is about the Georgia-Florida line, okay? So I think it's important. We're on that northern fringe of where it is in other parts of the world, but they have it, and we're likely going to have it. So this insect was first found in this hemisphere in Puerto Rico in 2023. How it got there, probably on some type of hurricane system maybe, could have been shipping, but that's just 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2023 in Puerto Rico. 2024, the insect was found in South Florida. They had reproducing populations of jacids on okra, especially in the southern part of Florida. Now we fast forward to Georgia. The first jacids detected in the state of Georgia were in Seminole County. And Justin Odom, I don't know if he's here today, but he took a couple really nice pictures, Justin. Those are nice pictures. But that's some of the first jacids that were seen in this state. Again, that was on July the 9th. Now, just a little more details. We got to properly identify an insect. Many of you in this room are very familiar with potato leafhopper. We see those on peanuts. We see hopperburn on peanuts. You're familiar with that. This insect is a little smaller than a potato leafhopper, but the identifying characteristics that we really look for is the two black spots. There's a black spot on each wing you can see in those pictures, but these things are tiny. And I know I see several of my crew, Miss Sarah Hobby over there, and we got Mason, Russ, and Ariel. They're tired of looking at jacids this past year, but you know, when we finally recognized things, we didn't really appreciate how tiny they were. But the other identifying characteristic of this insect is when you see them on cotton, you're going to see the associated injury. And if you see this hopperburn injury on a cotton field, you're likely dealing with cotton jacids, but got to properly identify the insect. A little bit on the biology of the insect. And again, it's important that you understand some things. I had a question not long ago, how can we look for jacid eggs? Well, you're not going to see jacid eggs. Jacids insert eggs into leaf tissue, similar to a plant bug. So you're not going to go out and see jacid eggs. Those pictures on the bottom right, my colleague in Quincy, Florida, Isaac Esquivel, took some pictures of eggs that were inserted into the leaf veins. So those eggs will hatch in 3 or 4 days. And you'll see these immature jacids, they'll molt. They'll actually shed their skin. They'll do it 5 times before turning into an adult. The important things for us to think about as growers, consultants, agents, is that jacid will complete a generation in about 2 weeks. So that's pretty rapid. And when you see something that turns to generation that quickly, you can see how populations can really go up. And we all saw that across the state of Georgia. The other thing that's important when you're dealing with an insect with a very, very short life cycle is they're going to be more prone to develop resistance when we expose that insect repeatedly to the same compound. And I'll mention that a bit later. But again, these things are small. Those are just the different stages, but if you look at that first instar right after they hatch, they're tiny, tiny. They're almost like a thrips. But a little more on the biology of the jacid. What do they feed on? And we like to use a fancy term, selectively polyphagous. Well, what that means is they'll feed on anything, okay? In the state of Georgia in September, I believe you could find a jacid on any green plant. All right? They were everywhere. But what we're most concerned about is what plant species are jacids reproducing on. And when we look at jacids and read about jacids in India and other parts of the world, they reproduce on at least 25 different plant species, and that's amongst 15 different plant families. But the 2 most important families they reproduce on are Malvaceae, that's cotton, and then your Asteraceae. So we're doing a lot of work starting now and as we move into the next year, trying to understand where jacids are today. What are they doing today? What are they doing in February? What are they doing in April? And we've got to understand what they're reproducing on just to know what to expect. There's just a list of many hosts that you read in the literature. The ones I have highlighted in yellow are the ones that we saw reproduction on in the state of Georgia: cotton, okra, sunflowers, eggplant, and hibiscus. You'll also see there's some other crops we grow: corn, soybean, and peanut. I'm sure you could find jacids on each of those crops in September, but we never saw reproduction. My colleague, Dr. Mark Abney, caged a lot of jacids on peanuts. They survived. They didn't die being on a peanut plant for 2 weeks, but they did not reproduce and they did not cause injury. So I like to term those incidental hosts, all right? But we're really focusing on reproductive hosts. That's a picture from a consultant down in North Florida of a cotton plant on the edge of a soybean field. Soybeans is listed as a host. There was nothing wrong with those soybeans, but they found that single cotton plant, right? All right, how do these jacids damage cotton? Well, they feed on the lower surface of the leaf. They're sucking insects. During feedings, they inject a toxin, all right? When we see plant injury, what we're seeing is how the plant is reacting to that toxin which was inserted into that leaf. Now, we refer to that injury as hopper burn, and it's not as distinct as what you see on peanut. It's more of a diffusion of yellow towards the center of the leaf. But that initial hopper burn and yellowing will turn red. We see leaves which will pucker. But one thing that's important to remember is these symptoms can develop very fast, all right? The other thing, Dr. Campan took a really good picture, but this insect really likes field edges, all right? Really likes field edges, especially if you have a plant off to its side. I like to refer that to as an indicator plant. Here's just some damaged pictures we took later in the year, but you can see some of that initial yellowing on the left. You see some leaves with a little puckering. You see where they turn red. But what will happen is those leaves turn red. Ultimately, those leaves could desiccate on the plant if you don't protect that plant. But again, the jacid's a good teacher. I mean, you should see this. You're going to see it on the edges first. Now, I just want to walk through a little bit of how some things worked out on our end with me and our county agents in trying to get information to you. One of the best things I thought we did as an extension to help support you guys is on August 5th, we had a meeting with all the county agents in the Southwest District. On August the 6th, we had a meeting with all the agents in the Southeast District. We got on the same page. We described symptoms. So when we communicated, we could all understand what we were saying. After we had those meetings, I sent updates to county agents 3 or 4 times, Seth, I don't remember. That's how we will continue to send out information. We're going to learn more about jacids. Follow your county agent. She will have the information for you. But when we did this first meeting on August 5th, those are the counties where we knew jacids were present. On August 7th, one day after we met with the Southeast agents in Midville after the field day, we lit up a whole lot more counties. Our agents were out looking. And I really commend our agents for the job they did. When this thing was first going down, I thought it was vitally important we understood how far it moved. I never anticipated what it would do, that it would do what it did. So that was on August 7th. We were 34 counties. 2 weeks later, I'm not sure how many counties, but you can see jacids continue to spread. 1 month later, jacids are basically detected in every county we grow cotton in the state of Georgia. That's phenomenal. An insect shows up on July the 9th, and we find it across the state of Georgia in just a couple months. You may be interested in where jacids are found in the U.S., but jacids quickly spread across Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and South Carolina cotton production areas. But what you see on this map, we do have scattered jacids in other parts of the U.S. The Rio Grande Valley. You know, that's very problematic. They're very far south. That's gonna be an area of the country we're gonna watch closely. But it's incredible how the insect has spread. As we go into 2026, and this is worth mentioning, Sarah, as we drove across the state of Georgia, how many okra patches did we never knew exist? You know, everybody plants an okra patch. I didn't realize how much okra there was. But I'm gonna ask you as agents and growers, let's watch okra. You know, I like to have a garden, I like to plant it early. And a lot of our initial detections were on okra. So it's gonna be something that we in Extension will be watching to see what it looks like on okra. We're gonna wanna know where they are. After we started finding them in okra, one of the first things we did is we went to Grady County with Cale Cloud and we collected a bunch of jacids. And we brought them back to the lab here in Tifton. We sprayed some cotton, put those treated leaves in Petri plates and put jacids on it. We wanted to know how to kill the insect. We had to understand what to do. This is before we even thought about spraying a cotton field. But we had to have some idea of what to do. We worked with Tucker Price in Cook County and did another bioassay. But literally, within just a couple weeks, we were able to work on grower fields and do actually field trials. That data is much better than something we do in a laboratory. This is Will Brown in Appling County. And Will, we sprayed this cotton on August the 12th, if I recall. But we ended up doing a lot of efficacy trials. My colleagues at Auburn did a couple trials. A buddy at Clemson, Dr. Jeremy Green, did a trial. Dr. Isaac Esquivel down in Florida did a couple trials. But we generated a lot of information on how to kill it. And kind of as a summary, we've got products that do a very good job. We've got products that are fair but have utility in a program. And then it's also important for us to understand which products don't do much. And unfortunately, a product we use a lot in the state of Georgia is bifenthrin. We spray a lot of stink bugs with bifenthrin. It's not bringing much to the table on this insect. So the very first field was actually sprayed in Appling County the end of July. And just some observations we made, you know, from grower fields. Initially, if you sprayed a field of cotton with jacid with a product that was effective, we were holding 2+ weeks before a repeat application was needed. Now, as we progressed later in the season, some of the cotton was maturing out. We were defoliating cotton. We had a lot more migration. Those intervals would have to be tightened, okay? Because you had a lot of movement of adults from field to field. Now, one thing we definitely recognized is you cannot miss this insect. You've got to be on time here, okay? You got to be on time. You can't let a field of cotton look like that picture. You've missed it. Symptoms can happen quickly. There's a field of cotton on the left. It's in trouble. Now, jacids were off the chain here, but my colleague at Auburn, Dr. Scott Graham, took this picture, and in 4 days it went from, that's a lot of damage on the field on the left, but in 4 days it just crashed out and the game was over. Now, here's just something very interesting, and Dr. John Snyder, our crop physiologist, just a great cotton person. But one of the things he did, and I still remember, we had some pictures of this injured leaves, and I showed him one day right before we started our podcast. Talking Cotton podcast. Hope you listen to it. And I showed him a picture of a leaf that was kind of yellow. And I said, John, how is this leaf functioning? And I'll never forget, he says, probably about 50% of what it should be doing. And I was like, John, that's not the answer I wanted to hear. And so anyway, he's a great researcher, and he wanted to do a little more. So we went out one morning and tagged a bunch of leaves showing a gradient of symptoms. And going from what we didn't think had any damage to that top right picture, you can see a little yellowing around the tips, and you see a little red on the tips. Then 3, 4, and 5, it just gets more and more red. But if you look at picture number 2, 58%, that's the photosynthetic capacity of that leaf compared to an undamaged leaf. We cannot let a field of cotton turn red until that crop is made. Now, when we think about using insecticides for jacids as we move forward, again, I mentioned we have products that do a fair job and products that do a very good job. If we look at what we did in 2025, insecticide price and availability drove selection, all right? We used a lot of dicrotophos or Bidrin. We used products like Argyle. On the back end, we started getting products like carbine. But we have some products that do a good job. But as we go into 2026, we really got to be thinking about what other pests are we dealing with on this farm. And depending on where you are in the state of Georgia, if you're right here in Tifton or in Doran with our chairman, whiteflies is on your mind. As we're making these decisions on insecticide use for jacids, we're thinking about whiteflies. If you're in Terrell County, you're dealing with plant bugs. You're making decisions on jacids, but you got to think about plant bugs. Bill, Tyson, I saw you. If you're in Bullock County, you're thinking about stink bugs when you're spraying jacids. So how we approach jacids and match these programs is going to vary, because we got to think about the total complex. We want to manage the entire complex of insects as efficiently as possible. As we go into 2026, you're going to hear us talk about resistance management. Earlier, I told you a jacid completes a generation in 2 weeks. If you go to India and its native land, jacids are resistant to basically every class of insecticide. We cannot use the same insecticide repeatedly. We're going to have to rotate every 2 weeks, ideally. One of the next objectives we had was trying to understand this insect's impact on yield. We read about it in other countries. We know it's yield limiting in other countries. In the state of Georgia, we got a lot of yield data points. On average, we saw a 13% yield loss, but our range of yield loss ranged from 1 to 46%. Now, I broke the yield loss data up by county, all right? Now, what we observed in terms of the intensity of jacid pressure and the problems we dealt with jacids, and I had a line on a slide earlier I forgot to point out, but you can draw a line from the southern end of Colquitt County and run north and east to Emmanuel County. Anything south and east of that line is where we had the worst jacids. And that shows up in this yield data. Brooks County, we had 2 trials in Brooks with Jacob Kleina, 35% yield loss. Trial down in Lowndes County, 31% yield loss. Couple trials in Appling County, 21% yield loss. Those are areas south and east of that line of intensity of the problem. Colquitt County, 9%. Decatur County, a couple trials, 4%. Tift County, we sprayed a lot in Tift County because sometimes it's hard to get data points. And we just were spraying cotton that was field cotton on various farms. But a lot of the sprays we made in Tifton were in September. So there's 2 things, and I say that because I want to make a point here. There's two factors that's going to impact yield loss. The obvious one is the number of jacids. That's easy. And we can make a real pretty graph and show how yield decreases as jacids increase. But the other important point for us to think about is when the jacid infects the cotton. The earlier the jacids get in the cotton, our greater potential yield loss. Okay? Now, how are we going to scout for jacids? And again, we pushed all this information out. And again, we wanted to have a consistent method so we could communicate. I didn't want to get a call from Paul Brown saying, hey, I got a lot of jacids, what do I need to do? Well, I don't know what a lot is. But we did a little bit of work looking at where jacids were on the plant. And the little graph on the left shows that, but we counted the number of jacids on the top 5 main stem leaves. And what you clearly see there, the most jacids were on leaf number 4. So that's what we standardized how to sample jacids. So if I got a call from Hunt Sanders in Ben Hill County, he said I got 2 jacids per leaf, I knew exactly what he meant. Okay? So we're going to look at the 4th leaf below the terminal. Now, what about thresholds? The first time I met with agents on August 5th, our threshold was 3 per leaf. Every time I sent an update out to agents, our threshold got lower. Okay? We got more aggressive as we learned more. As we go into 2026, our threshold is going to be 1 jacid per leaf. Easy to remember. We're going to sample that 4th leaf. I'm very confident that that threshold preserves yield if jacids come in after first bloom. That's the only experience we have with this pest, is this pest coming in after first bloom. What if it comes in earlier? We'll communicate the best we can. Likely we may get more aggressive if it comes in earlier. We'll see. Again, the potential yield loss is greater the earlier it gets in cotton. So I'm about to show you a slide of a lot of questions we don't know, but I wanted to show a little data on this. And at least folks in this general area that deal with whiteflies, they're aware that we run yellow sticky cards. We call it the whitefly loop. Mason back there, you've been running the whitefly loop for a while, Ariel. But it was sometime the end of July or August, they noticed we were catching jacids on these sticky cards, so we started counting them. And we run these whitefly cards every week. But what that illustrates is the number of jacids we've caught by week since early August. And Mason ran these, I think, Monday. Mason found 1 jacid Monday, okay? We hadn't killed all the jacids, but obviously the number of jacids is a lot different in the last month than it was back in late fall. We had our first killing frost on November 11th, and you can see jacids were running over 60 per card, and following that first killing frost, we dropped them down to a little over 10. We've had multiple killing frost events, okay? That's good. I feel good about where we are with whiteflies. I also think a lot of how jacids survive the winter is very similar strategy as whiteflies survive a winter. So I want to be optimistic, okay? We're going to continue to monitor these yellow sticky cards, and we'll keep you posted. Now, there are a lot of questions that we don't know the answer to, but we're working on it. Where are they right now? Our entomology crew's looking at alternate host plants right now. We got Dr. Taylor Singleton working on cover crops. Her crew's looking for jacids on these various cover crops and mixes. Where are they now? We're trying to understand it. I just showed you some information on temperatures. You would think if an insect's been around 100 years, someone would know the temperature that would kill it. Well, we don't know that. We're going to find that out. When are they going to come in 2026? We don't know. We don't know. I personally believe 2025 is probably best case scenario. I hope I'm wrong. But I think we demonstrated if they come in when they did, we're going to be better at getting after them. But we handled them for the most part this year. We had a good cotton crop. How long to protect cotton? We'll figure that out. What is the toxin? Probably be good to know what exactly that toxin is. These are things people are working on. What about resistant varieties? In India, every hill of cotton they plant is resistant to this insect. Okay? Every hill of cotton they plant. Our breeders are looking into this. That's a 10-year project. We got to get there. So just kind of a wrap up. Just remember that JAS is like these edges and indicator plants. If you don't have a scout or you're not checking your cotton, this insect's going to force you to do that. We cannot be late with a spray. If a field of cotton turns red, we miss the game. We're going to rotate. One thing that's kind of interesting is potash appears to be important. Where we had fields or area of fields which were deficient in potash, they crashed much, much quicker. So just do a good job with fertility. Don't need to do anything extra. Now I want to say a thank you to a lot of folks because the last 6 months and 19 days have been rough. But number one, I want to thank cooperating growers that let us work on their farm. They helped everybody, and I'm thankful. We got insecticide efficacy data. We got yield data. Thank you to the county agents. Hey, county delivery works. If you're in the industry and you don't follow a county agent, follow one of these county agents' newsletters. That's where information is going to come from JAS's. Thanks to my entomology crew. Thanks to consultants and industry folks. We all learned and worked through this together. Thanks to the cotton team. I have basically talked to almost every cotton team member about how something they do is associated with JAS's. We're all coming together. We have a great Southeast working group of entomologists. I would also especially like to thank Taylor and the Cotton Commission, the National Cotton Council, and Cotton Incorporated and industry partners because we needed some help. And the Cotton Commission and the Council helped us get that help. And what I mean by that, we needed people. We needed resources, and we got that. And we've got a postdoc starting on March the 1st, and her sole objective is cotton jassy. So thank you to those groups. I'm also excited we're soon to be interviewing for a research entomologist to work on cotton. So thanks to the college. Mike, it's been, 5 years? So that's great news. We're getting people. We're getting the team assembled to get after it. I recently learned that USDA here in Tifton just got a postdoc focusing on jassids. That's great. That's great. It's going to take time. But with that said, I mentioned the Southeast Row Crop Working Group, and Taylor mentioned this. As we talk, we get ideas from you guys, but I do have a colleague from Clemson, somewhere, Igor, back in the back, but he's got a survey. If you would like to fill that out, we'd appreciate it. It's trying to help direct some of our regional projects. I can tell you, JAS is going to dominate, and it should. You can take a picture of that QR code and fill out a survey there, or he's got some paper surveys. But I appreciate your time, and thank you for everything y'all do.
I was able at the Beltwide Cotton Conferences a couple weeks ago to sit in on a roundtable discussion with Phillip and his colleagues. And I just want to tell you, I don't know where this thing's going, but I'm glad that Phillip Roberts has taken us there. It is remarkable to me. I've always looked up to Phillip. He was one of the first extension people I met when I joined the working world. And it is just amazing how much his colleagues look up to him and respect him and rely on him for a lot of different things. All right, before, Greg Sykes is going to introduce our next speaker. We're going to do another door prize real quick. Now that people are starting to leave the room. 516-3261. 3261. We're going to move through these pretty quick. We got lucky on the first one. 3260 is the last four digits. 516-3260. All right, I'll let you have the set of binoculars from BASF. And what about 3260? Are they here? $3255. 3255. Miss Jerry, you win twice. How's that work? Well, since we're struggling, I'll let you slide this time. And you're going to get a set of chairs, too. So you got your binoculars and your chairs next time you want to sit out and look at birds. All right, Greg, if you'll come introduce our next speaker, I'll get her presentation pulled up here.
Mary Catherine Cromley serves as the Chief of Staff for the Farm Service Agency. Prior to joining USDA, she served as the Executive Director for the South Carolina Soybean Board, the South Carolina Cotton Board, and the South Carolina Corn and Soybean Association. Mary Catherine spent over 6 years in the U.S. Senate working as an aide for the late Senator Johnny Isakson and Senator John Bozeman, and on the staff of Senate Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry. Mary Catherine was raised on her family's cotton farm and peanut farm in East Georgia. She graduated with a degree in agriculture and applied economics from the University of Georgia. Please help me welcome Mary Catherine Cromley.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you to Taylor and the rest of the members of the commission for inviting me to be here today. And most importantly, thank you for giving me an excuse to miss the snowstorm in DC this weekend. I am not sad that I was at my parents' house instead of putting up with the 14 inches of snow. That is not something that I enjoy. But again, it's an honor to be here with y'all today, and appreciate y'all taking the time to be here as well. So. Like Greg said, my name's Mary Catherine Cromley. I grew up on my family's cotton and peanut farm in Brooklet, Georgia. What Greg didn't tell you is that one of my best friends lived next to his mom, so I've known Greg my whole life too. But anyway, so I've had the pleasure of serving as the Chief of Staff to the Farm Service Agency Administrator for the last 6 months, and it has been a busy 6 months at that. We are going to go over some of the important programs that the Farm Service Agency has been putting out over the last few months in this presentation. But before I get started, I want to introduce the administrator to you briefly. This is Administrator Bill Beam. He is a farmer from Pennsylvania. He is not a cotton farmer, but we're hoping to get him down here sometime next fall, hopefully, to be able to learn more about the cotton industry. But previously, he served as the Deputy Administrator of Farm Programs in the first Trump administration. So he was able to come in with a little bit of a leg up, knowing how FSA worked, but he did have to give up operations of his farm to take this job. So he had to sacrifice a lot to be in this role, but I hope that it helps y'all know that you have a farmer at the top of the Farm Service Agency who is helping to make these decisions and hoping that the policy decisions that are made help benefit you as producers as well. I'll go through some of his priorities as administrator before we dig into the program details, but one of his top priorities as administrator at FSA is to help modernize the Farm Service Agency. We are working diligently and have been over the last few months to hopefully be able to modernize acreage reporting and make that easier for producers of all crops, not just row crops, but specialty crops as well. We hope to be able to get to the point where you can do this on your phone while you have your tractor on auto steer and be able to upload that data, save it, and that way hopefully it lessens the burden on you. We also hope that we will be able to do a lot of our applications online moving forward. I would strongly encourage you, if you do not have a login.gov account that connects to the IRS, connects to VA, connects to Medicare, that you go ahead and sign up for that. That will be an integral part of being able to connect to the Farm Service Agency and have access to the programs and the applications that you need in a timely manner. So I strongly encourage you to sign up for that. You may need that sooner than you think. And it takes a few days to get approved sometimes through that process. So strongly encourage y'all to consider signing up for that as soon as possible. But so before we dig into the different programs and the different things that we've been doing over the last 6 months, we'll go over some of the overall program activity at the Farm Service Agency. I will hit the Farmers Bridge Assistance Program, the American Relief Act that goes through the disaster assistance through ECAP and with SDRP, and then the changes to the One Big Beautiful Bill. So just to give you a preview, we got a lot to cover in just a short amount of time. So for the program year 25, the Farm Service Agency delivered over $20.5 billion in payments to farmers across the country. You can see the breakout here. Obviously, the bulk of this was disaster assistance. So this includes ECAP. This includes some of the SDRP Stage 1 numbers that we were able to get out the door before the end of the year, as well as some of the additional programs that were authorized by the American Relief Act. So our offices have been busy. Y'all know that, we know that. We could not deliver these programs without our county staff. They are the integral part to what the Farm Service Agency does, and none of this would be possible without those staff. They are the front door to USDA, and they are who y'all interact with more often than not. So we appreciate y'all working with them and having patience as we're working through, and they're learning all of these new programs that we are putting out. So for ARC PLC cotton payments, all of this information is available on our dashboards online, just for your information. But in Georgia, there were $16.7 million in payments that went out total between ARC and PLC. And those were just for Georgia, but total it was about $280 million that went out. And this was for program year 24, so this does not include, obviously, the enhancements that were made to the reference prices in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And so this centers in on Georgia. And then also another piece of the Farm Service Agency, and an important piece of the Farm Service Agency, is our farm loan portfolio. So we, FSA loaned out $36.85 billion in loans. Those vary from, microloans to operating loans, and FSA is typically the first stop for beginning farmers whenever they're getting started. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention our loan portfolio. We won't focus on that today, but if you need any more information on that, please feel free to let me know. And so we will move on to the Farmer Bridge Assistance Program. That is the big topic. That has been the big topic. These payments were announced towards the end of the year after the program was announced in December, early December. For cotton, the payment rate is going to be $117.35 per acre. We are on track to announce that sign up for the week of February 23rd. And we hope that will allow payments to begin getting to producers by February 28th. And a couple of important notes on this: the payments will not be factored. There have been factors on some of our other programs. This will not be factored. You will receive that $117 per acre in one payment upfront. There will not be multiple payments. The way that this program was structured and the way that it was announced was to be able to accommodate us only having to make one payment. So want to make sure that that's very clear. And pre-filled applications will be available similar to some of the other programs that have come out through the Farm Service Agency recently, but they will not be mailed to producers. You will need to contact your county office to see if they can email it to you if you want to sign it digitally, or go into the office and sign it in the office. These payments are going to be based on your 2025 planted acres. And for awareness, unlike with ECAP, prevent plant acres are not eligible at this point in time. And the payment limitation of $155,000, will apply, but the typical rules for actively engaged and AGI will also apply as well. This was an important priority of the president, of the secretary, to make sure that there was a bridge to the historic investments that were made through the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So we are hoping that this is delivered quickly. We have I think it's about a 67 days or 70 days between program announcement and hopeful money being seen in bank accounts. So that is a remarkable improvement on some of the past programs. We're very excited to deliver this quickly and be able to announce it whenever it was, so that hopefully as you're seeking lines of credit this spring, that you are able to get those. And hopefully that can help you this spring. So that's, we're very excited to have this delivered out into the field very quickly. So, with the American Relief Act, that was the disaster bill, or the disaster bill was passed last December. And so that provided almost $31 billion for losses due to disasters in 23 and 24. $10 billion of that was earmarked for the ECAP program. So hopefully you have all filled out your applications and received your ECAP funding by now. If you haven't, there's still some time, but hopefully you've gotten those filed in the last few months. And then an additional $2 billion of that was earmarked for the Emergency Livestock Relief Program, specific to livestock losses. We won't dig into too many details on that today, but if you do have questions about that, I will be available to answer those as well. Just to review the ECAP payments that were by commodity, overall cotton received the fourth largest amount of payments throughout the country, and totaled almost $1 billion, about $900 million. And you can see through the heat map where those payments were focused. And then specifically for Georgia cotton, there was $90 million that was sent out to producers through ECAP. Now we get into the fun stuff with SDRP, that's the Supplemental Disaster Relief Program. And I should have noted this at the front, but I often talk in acronyms as we do in the federal government a lot of times, so you'll have to excuse me if I just spit out an acronym, but SDRP is the program that was rolled out. The first stage of it was rolled out earlier in the year, or we are no longer in 2025. I have to keep reminding myself that. It was rolled out in 2025. And the first stage was a pre-filled application that we were able to pull the information from RMA if you had an indemnified loss to be able to top up more or less your crop insurance policy. And so we are still taking applications for stage one. The sign-up deadline for both stage one and stage two is April 30th. So if you are waiting to get your SDRP application in, please make sure that you do that by the deadline of April 30th. The first payments that have gone out are factored at 35%. And that factor was put in place in order to make sure that we were getting as much money as possible to producers as quickly as possible to hopefully be able to prevent any additional interest on accruing on any additional lines of credit that you may have. So we got a lot of questions about that. It was factored at 35%. If there are funds available, we will consider doing a top-up. The world of the stage two losses is pretty unknown to us, so we are making sure that we don't overspend on our programs right now. But the SDRP stage two was announced right after the shutdown ended, and it covered the shallow losses that may not have quite reached the level of being indemnified by crop insurance, but were still significant losses. So that paperwork is a little complicated, we will admit, but it is important to make sure that you get the information in so that we can make sure that you get your payment as quickly as possible. We'll go through some of the details on this in just a second. But so this is our chart on how SDRP applied to your crop insurance policy. So if you purchased a crop insurance policy of 80%, then our calculation for SDRP more or less topped up your policy to be a 95% coverage factor for SDRP. We were able, like I mentioned earlier, to utilize a lot of the data from RMA, particularly on stage 1, and we hope that that streamlined the process for you a little bit, but again, stage 2 is a little bit different on that. And if you do qualify for a loss, then you also will be, your refund of premium and fees for crop insurance is included in your calculation for what you receive from SDRP. So just to cover eligibility a little bit, obviously losses that were in 23 and 24 were covered, or if you planted a winter crop in 24 that was harvested in 25, those were all eligible due to the disaster events. More or less covered any type of disaster that you could have, and know that the Southeast in particular was hit hard in the last few years. Specialty crops have a different coverage, and they're covered in different ways as well. But and then moving forward, there is a linkage requirement for if you take SDRP, you are required to have crop insurance at a certain level moving forward for the next couple of years. And so, again, covering some of the eligibility with SDRP, we do have separate payment limits set for each year. So your payment limit, it will not cover just 1 year or cover all of the years. It will cover each year individually. And so there's also the opportunity to increase your payment limit. If you have 75% of your AGI is 75% or less is derived from farming, then your payment limit is capped at $125,000. But if you have more of your income that comes from farming, then you have the ability to apply for the additional, you can submit some additional paperwork to be eligible for the $250,000 payment limit. That's it. We've already covered this about how we used pre-filled applications. We are hoping to move towards that with more things as possible in the Farm Service Agency. One new aspect that was just announced in January is the quality piece of stage 1. So stage 2, whenever it was announced, it already incorporated some quality loss aspects and how to calculate those. But with stage 1, our priority again was making sure we could get as much money as we could out the door as quickly as possible. So we had to take a little extra time to develop the quality calculations. This particularly will apply for cotton, and we're still working through some of the kinks in the system, but we do have a calculator available online that will help you calculate and estimate what your quality loss actually is. You can find those on the SDRP on the SDRP page on the USDA website, and this will help you determine the percentage by weighing the quality loss of impacted bales against all of your bales. To date, we have dispersed almost $6 billion in SDRP Stage 1 payments. This is across the country. Again, this opened back mid-year in 2024, so this is far ahead of the Stage 2 applications and quality as well. And so for Stage 1, it's for Georgia specifically, for cotton payments, that's been about $100 million in payments that have gone out to producers across the state. And then here's another breakdown of some of the quality payments that have gone out. We have not dispersed any payments on this just because it has been announced so recently, and it is a little more complicated, the paperwork and the approval process for Stage 2, or for quality, excuse me. And then for Stage 2 cotton payments, we've issued about $2.2 million in payments to date. Again, this is going to be a little bit behind our stage 1 payments, but there will be plenty of time to catch up between now and April 30th. And then overall, with stage 2, we have dispersed about $171 million in payments across the country. So we will move on now to the One Big Beautiful Bill Act provisions. I refer to the One Big Beautiful Bill as OBA. You hear a lot of different references to it, OB3, OB cubed, but I'll refer to it as OBA. So there were several provisions that were beneficial to cotton producers specifically. One of the biggest ones was that it increased the loan rates for crop years 2026 through 2031 for marketing assistance loans and loan deficiency payments. Here is the chart of all of the increases for cotton specifically. The rate increased from 52 cents a pound to 55 cents a pound. And so it also changed the storage cost, and those are now $3 for states like Georgia. California and Arizona get $4.90, but for Georgia, storage cost will be $3 a pound. It also, $3. And then another change was that the AWP formula for upland cotton was updated. Previously, it was based on the average of 5 different prices across the world, and then now we're doing the 3 lowest, which will hopefully be of significant benefit to producers when calculating the rates for marketing assistance loans and LDPs. So again, the marketing loans were reauthorized through 2031. And that's important to make sure that we know what we can do and the rates that we have for that long. Not all programs were extended in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, but most of ours within the Farm Service Agency were. And then another provision that is important to the marketing assistance loans and the LDPs for cotton or the marketing assistance loans overall, is there's the allowance for a 30-day look back. So if you redeem your loan and then the price changes and it benefits you in the following 30 days, then that will allow you to be refunded the difference in that price. So that's a significant change. It kind of takes some of the guessing game out of it, but hopefully that will help benefit y'all as producers as well. So we have already seen significant increases to our loan activity just because of the economy where it is and the increased or the changed rates in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So to date, as of last Friday, I believe, we have set almost or over 7.5 million bales pledged as collateral for the CCC commodity loans, and 2.1 that have been offered for LDP. That's significantly higher than the activity we've seen over the last few years, so we're hoping that the provisions that are in place will be beneficial to producers. The 30-day look back and some of those provisions will be applicable to this year. So we're excited to get those in place. Hopefully we will have some rules and regulations that will be announced on that early spring. And so the total disbursements have, as you can see, have been about $2 billion in loans and $15 million for LDPs. And you can see the breakdown between the different types of cotton there. Some other changes that were made in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act were reference prices were increased. And for seed cotton, it went up from 36.7 cents a pound to 42 cents a pound. So that will be applicable for the 2025 crop year, and you will automatically receive, regardless of your ARC or PLC election, the higher of the two. That was one important provision. Congress did not think it was fair to ask to potentially penalize you for making a decision on information you didn't have at the time. So we will have that go into place where you get the higher of the ARC or the PLC rate, hopefully October 1 or a few days after of 2026. And then also in the One Big Beautiful Bill also included the addition of 30 million new base acres that can be allocated across farms that have less base than what they have been planting. We'll get into that in a little bit more detail, but that for those of you who don't have base, that is a huge deal. All of the commodity groups and everybody says, price support and safety net is the most important part, but if you don't have base acres, you have not been able to participate in ARC and PLC in the past. So we're very excited to get that process started, and we'll go over some examples on how that's going to work here in just a minute. For the base acre update, it can't exceed your total cropland plus your CRP cropland acres. And again, we'll get into this in just a second on how CRP is calculated into your total cropland. And then also the One Big Beautiful Bill did change how certain entities are treated. It defined the term of qualified pass-through entities to include partnerships, S-corps, LLCs, joint ventures, and general partnerships. So this requires us to look at all of the entities in the same manner. That has not been the case in the past, so that is a provision that will hopefully benefit producers as well. And another important change that was made in OBA was to increase the payment limitation for Title I payments from $125,000 to $155,000, and that $155,000 will be adjusted annually for inflation. So it will not stay at $155,000 unless inflation goes down significantly. So we'll see those changes come into effect for this crop year, and hopefully that will make a significant impact on farms, especially as it allows for the inflation adjustment now. Okay, so now we're going to get into the base acre conversation and talk about how that is going to work. So your base acre allocation is going to be based on your planting activity from 2019 to 2023. So we'll take your average of what you planted and the different commodities that you planted during that time to determine what new base acres you may be eligible for. We'll also take into consideration that if you have CRP land, you'll get credit for 15% of that CRP land that's enrolled, just to, in case you do want to convert that back to cropland. We're not going to penalize you for participating in one of our programs. And so we'll go to this. So you'll only have a certain number of acres. You cannot exceed what your plantings have been on the average of the last 5 years, plus your CRP land. And so if you have more base on your farm than your planting, you will not be eligible to receive new base through this. Let's see. And something that particularly applies to the cotton industry, if you have unassigned base, so if whenever cotton was no longer a Title I program and your cotton base was converted to a generic base and you chose to take your seed cotton base, but you lost 20% of your base or it went to unassigned base, you will be eligible to have that base reassigned. And it does not count against the $30 million cap that was put in place by Congress because that base already exists. It's not new base, we are just able to reallocate it. I want to be very clear, it's not going to go directly back to cotton base. It is going to be based on what you have planted in the 5-year period. So your unassigned base will be split up just like everything else, but you will get 100% of that base back. If the 30 million, if the demand exceeds 30 million for all of the other base acres, and those have to be factored, that will not apply to your unassigned base. You will get 100% of that reassigned so long as you've been planting up to that level of acres. And so we're working, so that's an important difference I want to be sure to point out here. And so here's an example of how this will work. The answer is on the next slide, so if you want to try to figure it out on your own, we'll cover the answer. But if you have a total of 50 acres, 0 CRP acres, and currently you have 35 base acres on that farm, but 10 of those are unassigned base. In this example, In this example, you've planted 25 acres of wheat and 25 acres of sunflowers for a total of 50 acres of covered commodities. And so, again, you'll have your 5-year average is 50 acres, and then you'll have 15 acres that you could possibly have reallocated to your plantings for the 5 years previously. And so you only have 15 acres that are eligible for that, plus your 10 that you had that were unassigned base. So in this case, that your unassigned base you'll have 5 acres of wheat, 5 acres of sunflowers, and then you'll have some additional base that will also be reallocated at the same percentage. I know that can get confusing. There's a lot of math that goes into this, a lot of making sure that everything is right. This process is something that our county staff have been trained on a couple of times so far. They're actually doing another training this afternoon. There will be a history dig, but we are taking the stance that each producer is opting into, and each landowner is opting into that history dig. So you will not have to tell us that you want new base. We are going to assume that everybody wants their base unless you tell us you don't want it. And then hopefully we will be able to complete this process over the next few months. I should also note that this base acre reallocation will delay ARC and PLC sign-up significantly. We will not conduct sign-up for ARC and PLC for this crop year until after this process is completed. That's not a bad thing. That's a very good thing, because you will have, by the time you have to choose ARC or PLC, you'll have an idea of the crop you have and what the market conditions are. So we actually see this as a benefit to the producer that we are not conducting sign-up with the deadline of March 15th like we normally have. So hopefully y'all see it that way as well, but we do want to make sure that we take the time to get this process right. It is a big deal. It is the first time that we have added base acres in quite some time. Also want to make sure that it's clear that this is not a mandatory base update. This is not a voluntary base update. It's the addition of new base acres. So you will not get to reallocate your existing base in this process. But you also won't have to be forced to change your base if you like your base. But this will just provide the opportunity to add additional base as needed. Let's see. I think I'm at time. I know I rushed through that a little bit. These programs are complicated and can be complicated, as y'all know. But I have my contact information up here, and I'll be around at lunch. If you have any specific questions about one of your applications or what's coming up in the future for the Farm Service Agency, please feel free to reach out, grab me at lunch. Always happy to answer questions. And thank y'all again for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Mary Catherine. We're going to have to swap over to Zoom real quick for our next speaker. Unfortunately, she got snowed in by the weather. So we're going to have to just, if you'll bear with us just a second. We did a trial run of this earlier and we got logged out. We can. Start. Turn that off. I know. I'm sending her a new one. Matt is gonna come introduce our speaker. Let's get this that way. And we will give out, one more prize while she gets logged on. That's 516-3234. Miss Jerry, I got my eyes on you. 516-3234. Five one six 3228. Five one six 3240. Willie Scott, you gonna get the other binoculars.
Okay. All right, our next speaker is Marjory Walker. Marjory is the Vice President of Operations and Director of Communications for the National Cotton Council. At the National Cotton Council, she is responsible for managing the domestic and global operations, as well as overseeing the overall communication and media relations function of the council and its related organizations. Previously, Marjory worked in marketing and communication roles at the Cotton Board, eventually serving as Vice President of Communications. Sorry. And Marjory lives on the family farm in Somerville, Tennessee, with her husband and 2 daughters.
As you can imagine, we are, oh, here she is. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. All right, Marjorie, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Can y'all hear it across the room? We're good? All right, Matt has already introduced you, and we're ready to go.
All right, well, I'm gonna hit share, and then you tell me, it says I can't share. So share, turn on where I can share.
Allow.
Here we go. Hold on. Can you see that?
Soon.
Presentation motion, can you see
It
it?
says you've started sharing. I think we're getting, there we go. All right, guys, this is Marjorie Walker. Obviously, they've had some weather concerns in the Mid-South. She wasn't able to fly down and be with us, but I personally think this is a very important industry initiative, and hope you will enjoy it.
Thank you, and I am so sorry not to be there. We are still iced in the balmy Mid-South, so, thank you for allowing me to do this. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about the Plant Not Plastic campaign that we launched in September. So, that changed lives, correct? Yes, okay. As you may have heard, I hope you've seen it, our campaign, Choose Plant Not Plastic Because What You Wear Matters, is, it's new and it's bold, and it directly addresses the growing awareness of microplastics in the environment and in our bodies, drawing attention to synthetic clothing for the first time, and the health benefits of choosing cotton. So what we were hoping to do, was position cotton as the solution to microplastics. It's a growing concern, very unique opportunity for our industry to directly show that it's not just what you eat or drink. Your choices around clothing,
Recording in progress.
have a direct impact, I don't know if I need to okay that or not, but I'll just leave that. Have a direct impact on your personal and family health. And for a little bit of background, this all came out of the strategic planning task force that the National Cotton Council held this August, will be 2 years ago, at Joe Nicostia's request, to discuss issues within the industry. How do we attack some of them head on? What can we do to move the demand needle? How can we get a number of things in the Farm Bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act? How can we try to help farm country, et cetera? Which is obviously what we're all about. That's our mission at the National Cotton Council. And so one of the things that came out of this was the concern and the fact that synthetic fiber has real consequences when you choose plastic, and then cotton is the natural alternative. So we put our heads together, came up with this campaign, flash forward from August of '24 to June of '25, and the National Cotton Council was requested to meet with the Maha Commission. So I went up there to talk about a couple of things. One of them, their goal was to put healthy food on every child's plate in America, and they thought they could do that without crop protection products. So there were 4 commodities that met at a time with this commission to discuss those issues, and I was there to address specifically glyphosate, dicamba. So we had a great conversation about that, and then my job was to get them off of that and on to something else where they could make an impact that would be helpful to all Americans, and we chose microplastics in line with the Strategic Planning Task Force's initiative, and in an effort to try to build demand, taking market share away from microplastics, put the focus back on looking at the label. So I met, they went back and did their thing, came out with their Maha Commission report in August, and microplastics research was in there. We were very excited to see that. And this is, it's tied now to public health in a way that cotton has not ever been tied before. So that's just a little bit of background on this campaign and why we're doing it. So again, it targets the core consumer, who's not only the primary purchaser of clothes for their family, but also the person who's influencing others. So we have already started in the foundational phase using animations, and you'll see that we have chosen vital organs because those are the ones, the heart, the brains, and the lung, those are the ones that are easily recognizable, but also the ones most vital to our health, and where research is showing that microplastics are turning up is very disconcerting. That microplastics from synthetic clothing are actually being found in our bodies in huge ways. That, we originally thought it was just not that this is good, but just in the oceans and in our water. Now it's in our bodies. So we're intentionally focusing on that because it gets people's attention. It's got nobody wants this, and it's actually getting brands' attention. There are brands who actually focus mostly on microplastics. A lot of our young daughters have a lot of those products in their closets. And they've come to us just in the last 2 months saying, okay, we got a problem. How do we get more U.S. cotton into our line? So from that standpoint, I'm proud to say that it actually is working. Is it a silver bullet? Is it overnight? No. But is it one of many things the U.S. cotton industry has in its arsenal to move demand? Yes. So I'm going to show you the next page. The next slide is the microplastic, plant not plastic web page, which is the central hub for our key messaging and our resources. And when I show you the slide, it's going to be a video of the slide. And you'll see that it is clearly and simply telling the story that, and leads with the ticker at the top that tells you how many microplastics you consume today. That grabs your attention, brings people in. It sort of creates a sense of urgency. The slide is very science-backed, and you'll see that it goes from stark black microplastics to finally light and bright when it comes to cotton as the solution. And while you're looking at this, keep in mind that every single thing on here is completely science-backed. We have, let me go ahead and let you see, show it. So you'll see the ticker at the top, and then the fact sheet is over on the top right. Download. Let me see if I can get this to play. There's no sound. I just, no, it didn't want to play. Well, technology's great when it works. Let me see if I can get it to do this. No, it's not going to work for me there. But this is the fact sheet. We will just scroll down to the fact sheets. This is the site. Yay, sorry. You'll see it's all black. You see the little microplastics floating across the page, and when you click on that, there's little factoids about the microplastic. Now it comes to the bright white cotton is healthier for your future. And again, we knew the plastics industry would come after us once we launched this. They started that this month. So we make sure that every single thing we say is backed in science. We've had it vetted by Jesse Daystar, by Chad Brewer, and then by a leading microplastics researcher in Australia and one in London at Leeds University to make sure that we are watertight on everything we're saying. We've got over 900 downloads of this, which is crazy, but it's a consumer-friendly fact sheet, and it's got peer-reviewed information. It's not a technical paper at all, but this information breaks down the issue in clear, accessible language. It's updated with additional resources every time somebody involves in this campaign involves. So I wanted you to see this. I'm going to show you some additional assets here. So this is an animation. Now I always have to tell a little bit of background on this. We do animations, a couple of them a quarter, because it keeps people interested. It's trying to draw the audience closer. We want to directly talk to them and say, look, you know, back in the day, a lot of us in this room can remember where we had checked the label. We were looking for made in the USA, we were looking for cotton. We're trying to get people to check the label now. The vodka, it'd be great if it's made in the USA again, but also we want you to check the label and make sure it's cotton. So I asked my agency to give me an animation that would do this in a compelling way. And this is, when I hit play, you'll see this, but we released this ahead of Black Friday, which is the biggest U.S. shopping season out there. So we released it in November. I want you to take a look. To me, it looked a little bit like a tombstone. And at first that bothered me, but then I thought, no, it's probably appropriate. If you'll see the little hole at the top, it actually is a hang tag, so hang on. It should play, if I again, technology, hold on. When I get over here, it doesn't want to play. Hang on, it's gonna play, I just know. Here we go.
Every step, every breath, every heartbeat. Microplastics escape from our clothes into the air. Unseen, they flow through every vein of our lives. Not only do we breathe them in, so do people close to us. Clothing labels aren't just a tag. They show us what we're really wearing, inhaling, and passing on. Check the label. Stay informed to protect yourself and those you love. Choose Cromley. What you wear matters. Plant, not plastic.
So, what we're doing, we'll plan another, actually I've already seen the animation that I requested for Q1 that we'll distribute, and that's gonna focus again on the lungs. So this was the heart, but at the end of last year, we focused on your wardrobe, your wellness storyline. So we were connecting the timely holiday shopping season with possible health implications of wearing synthetic materials, and we tried to put the story out there. If you're, put cotton in the stocking, you put cotton in your homes. So our coverage featured an infographic, some pretty hard-hitting statistics to educate shoppers and really make them stop and think prior to making a purchase what they were purchasing. So you'll see that I hope you saw some of this coverage about what's in your wardrobe and then what's in your closet. We actually worked with an influencer, and through the month of December, she went through the closet, taking out everything that wasn't cotton and repurposing it. Because you've also got to think about circularity and then filling up landfills with products that you're discarding as you're replacing your wardrobe with cotton. So now we want to focus on some storytelling, more on wellness, and some informed choices for your family. This slide is meant to show you that in just 4 short months, because we only launched this in September, we have seen fabulous results with very minimum paid efforts. We've had coverage in publications that range from business to agriculture, blogs. Also, I never thought we would see coverage in the LA Times, Chicago Tribune, and we've had a combined reach of over 142 million just in the U.S. alone. And this is unheard of for this organic growth. It just shows you the interest in this topic and in people's health. Outreach is being conducted over 135 editors. I think I'm up to about 142 interviews now. We have new interview opportunities in Progressive Farmer. We've got an upcoming podcast that I'm going to do with produce moms. Additionally, we're having conversations with the Mind Label and Lydia Dupree that are influencers, both very interested in families' health and in microplastics. So expect to see those soon. The social profiles have a huge momentum. It's very strong. Which, as you know, is a very fickle Cia's point, we're not preaching to the choir. We've expanded our reach across platforms and across different audiences outside of ag. We've had over 2 million impressions and views, and you hear that all the time. And, you wonder what that means, but what that means is those impressions are in the key audiences that we've targeted. There's increased visibility, brand awareness across all platforms. So beyond that, you've got the organic engagement, which when you see those engagements, that means that somebody took the time to like, to share, to download, to comment, and that's harder to get. Think how many times you scroll through social media, you're not really engaging, you're just looking at it. So that's indicative of this topic and what we're saying about it, that it's reaching out and making people want to engage with it. The campaign webpage has got strong reach, and it's hard to have that in the website world today and the internet with a new launch. But we've got over 7,000 site views. We've got events, 25,000 events. That means, again, people did something when they were on the site with the assets. So they downloaded, they watched it. They're spending an average of 5 to 7 minutes. And think about how much time you spend scrolling. You don't spend 5 to 7 minutes on site. I know I don't, unless it's really compelling. So we're very impressed. We've had over 900 file downloads. That's crazy in 4 months. That shows that a high portion of our visitors, again, they're actively engaged. They want to know more about it. They're looking for a deeper understanding about the content. We have visitors from all over the world, Australia, Brazil, UK, Germany, Netherlands, India, Mexico, and more. But those are the primary people that are interested. We're hopeful that this is the beginning of Plant Not Plastic. It needs to be as we continue on. In this country, we've identified through a lot of consumer research and data. We're using an agency called 20-somethings to help us identify locations for the audience, where they need to be concentrated, and it enables us to layer and target highly engaged groups in those areas. So you can see, unlike a lot of other campaigns in the industry, we believe, and we're right, that the Cotton Belt is a target audience. We hear a lot that we're not, but we are, as consumers and as health conscious. Normally in the South, Blood Basin Dix line, we don't get called very health conscious, but there is. We are health conscious. We want to make the right decisions for our families, what we eat, what we put in our bodies, and what we put on our bodies. In this foundational phase, we had a paid ad component that targeted consumers and policymakers in DC, and we're about to have the same effort in the very health conscious state of California. We are still doing efforts in all of these other areas. And as you can see, we at the council are really good at minimal waste approaches. We take a dollar and stretch it very, very far. So we're using highly targeted data to ensure that every single dollar we have is being spent effectively and targeted in a very targeted approach. I wanted to talk a little bit about this being an industry movement, because from the very beginning, we said loud and clear this is an industry movement. All along, we thought we would have huge industry support and plan on that. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that today. Cotton Incorporated is a huge supporter with us on the scientific side of this campaign. We partner with them to use their research effectively, and we include that on our microsite. Jesse Bestars is a real advocate for this. We have utilized their research, and honestly, Jesse is one of the researchers that has vetted every single bit of the research that is out there. So while they are researching the campaign and helping us, they're researching microplastics, and we're using all that data that they come up with, and they have a very good fact sheet that they've just updated and put on their site. They are able to do communication about generic microplastics, but they are continuing to get very good signals from USDA on how much they're able to participate in anything at all that is disparaging against plastic. So currently, CI is not able to use plant-not plastic or plant-over plastic. They are creating and sharing their own content with microplastics and working with their own influencers. They believe, and we do too, that their concerns about plant-not plastic USDA's are just unfounded, and they're working with USDA contacts now as we speak to come up with a solution for that. I always like to say that because a Cotton Incorporated is solidly behind, cotton as a solution to microplastics. They are not able to participate in this particular effort. Bear Crop Science is on the spot because they've been a wonderful supporter of plant not plastic. They have not been able to, they don't give dollars currently, but they have integrated the message into their own content and materials. They have created a branded t-shirt that I hope everyone of you gets the chance to see and get. It's spectacular with the Plant Not Plastic logo and supporting work. They have signage around their headquarters in St. Louis. They worked with me on a number of videos. The biggest thing they've done, and really one of the most expensive, I'm very happy they're doing this, is within their own social media calendars and digital content. I've worked with their designers, they're sharing ours and then creating their own. And it's not just support, it is a powerful endorsement that helps amplify our message to a broader ag and consumer base. We're very grateful, so thank your local bear reps for the work that they're doing. I know Shay and Jennifer have incorporated in every presentation they make, and we'll all be at the Bourbon Cotton Exchange in March and plan to amplify that even more. We've also had a conversation with the cotton museum in Memphis. They reached out to us and said, this is a great campaign. We think it belongs in the museum. We're looking for sponsors for that. So we'll stay tuned on that. It's very encouraging industry support. I think it more than validates our direction. However, as we embark on this next phase of the campaign, we're going to need additional dollars. We're seeking those now, and I'll keep you posted on that as we move forward. So we're at an important time in this campaign. We're getting results. We're making progress. We've definitely built the foundation. We've definitely got to dial things up. And so toward that end, when we need the whole industry to come together, and I'm going to show you again our social channels, we do need additional dollars, and we're working on that through some foundations, through some other sources, possibly CCI. But we do need to move forward to high impact through 2026, ramp it up, amplify the message to a much wider audience. We have other foundational content planned. We've got engaged third-party voices on those. So we have a pretty powerful launch plan in DC in April if we're able to pull that off. And it would be very timely if that fell in line with the Buy American Cotton Act. But of course, we have no idea about the timeline on that. So we think this is a creative, clear, bold, adaptable path forward for the whole industry, focusing on this message that resonates deeply with everyone in their health. And I would ask you to share on your personal channels, share on your organizational channels, because we've got to layer our voices, we've got to make ourselves heard and make an impact for the industry. Taylor, I think I'm close to the deadline here, so I'll stop now and take questions if you want me to.
Are there any questions for Marjory today? If not, if you want to ask later, we can handle that after the fact. Let's give Marjory a round of applause. All right. Well, thank you, Marjory. I hope you thaw out soon.
Me too, thank you.
Have a nice day. All right, we're going to do, two things that we failed to mention earlier. We have a lot of volunteers who are in the room who are in senior leadership positions within the cotton industry. Those are all printed on this insert card in your program. If you have questions about what these organizations do, how to get involved, anything like that, please reach out to these people. We try to do a good job of having them scattered out all over the state. Appreciate all the time and effort that they undertake as well. Also, from Mary Catherine's presentation, she wanted me to mention that if there is another government shutdown in the coming window, the USDA will remain open. Their funding is secure for the time being. One more, we're going to do a bigger prize here. This is going a roll of Tamarap, and that's going to be 516-3248. Yeah, Willie, you already won. All right, 516-3271. 516-3265. We are going to have Pastor Stacy Phillips from Northside Baptist Church come do an invocation for us while I continue to draw names. 516-3206. We were doing pretty good earlier. 516-3270. 516-3262. All right, we'll get with you in a second. What we're going to do when Reverend Phillips gets done, we put this pipe and drape up here so that the people who sat through the program could be first in line this year. Pastor Phillips, thank you for coming today.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. Before I read a scripture and pray, I just want to say thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for what you do. I am a transplant from North Georgia. I've been down here 4 years, and being around farmers in our church, I'm like most of America. I did not realize all it takes to get stuff into the ground and out of the ground to benefit me and my family. So thank y'all so much for what you do. I want to read out of Psalm 104. My soul bless the Lord. Lord my God, you're very great. You're clothed with majesty and splendor. He wraps himself in light as if it were a robe, spreading out the sky like a canopy, laying the beams of his palace on the waters above, making the clouds his chariot, walking on the wings of the wind, and making the winds his messengers, flames of fire his servants. He causes the springs to gush into the valleys. They flow between the mountains. They supply water for every wild beast. The wild donkeys quench their thirst. The birds of the sky live beside the springs. They make their voices heard among the foliage. He waters the mountains from his palace. The earth is satisfied by the fruit of your labor. He causes grass to grow for the livestock and provides crops for man to cultivate, producing food from the earth, wine that makes human hearts glad, making his face shine with oil, and bread that sustains human hearts. Would you join me as we pray? Heavenly Father, thank you for these farmers who work the land that you have created and provide for the needs of humanity. We ask that you would bless them with favorable weather, abundant harvest, and faith and endurance in challenging times. Father, give them peace in times of uncertainty and renew their spirits as they care for your creation. Surround them with support from their communities and families, and most importantly, may they feel your presence in all of their labor and seek your sovereign guidance daily. We pray for their families, their health, and their livelihoods. May your provision overflow in their lives as they continue their faithful stewardship. And we thank you for this meal we're about to enjoy together in the wonderful name of our one and only Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.